Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekday meditation session that we do together. And the idea of that practice, that Buddhist practice, meditation practice, is a shared activity, that we do it in community, is a nice thing to emphasize, partly because of the way in which we become a little bit internal when we meditate, closing our eyes, being with our breath, connected to ourselves. And but to do it with a strong sense that we're doing it together with other people places meditation in a bigger context. It places the kind of internal movement of settling into ourselves clearly within a context of community and maybe even the wider world, and something that we do not just for ourselves, but we do for everyone. It's a form of mental health or mental cleaning, cultivation of wisdom, of clarity, of a calm state of mind. It's also the cultivation. It's also a cultivation of a beautiful mind. And this idea that the mind can be beautiful is maybe an idea that's foreign to some people. But this mind that we have, and we don't need to define what it is, it's what it is for each of us, the inner mental landscape that we have, that can become a beautiful landscape. That every single person has that beauty or has that capacity for beauty is built into the Buddha's teachings. So as we sit here today, to take care, loving care, in a little bit of extra time, so that the loving care, can find expression and have something that receives it. Let your body receive your care by spending time kind of settling into your body, finding a really good way of being with your body, an alignment, an attunement of your body, maybe moving around a little bit, swaying a little bit, until you find a nice, steady place that feels good for your body. Even if there's some discomfort somewhere in your body, maybe the gestalt of your body begins to come alive, or start experiencing the vitality of this body. And with the caring, kindness and care for your body, gently close your eyes. Maybe gently allow the eyeballs, the muscles around the eyeballs to soften. Perhaps allow the forehead to soften or spread wide or relax. Sometimes it's enough just to imagine it's relaxing. There's a very close, intimate relationship between the mind and the body. And imagining is not necessarily separate from the physical relaxation. And softening, relaxing the shoulders. Maybe again, a little bit the torso. Kind of maybe a little bit, move it a little bit. Shake it a little lightly. So the shoulders maybe can be released a little bit more. And maybe there's a way of softening or opening in the heart area, chest, solar plexus. Maybe as you exhale, settling back and down into the heart center, onto the diaphragm. And relaxing the belly, softening the belly, letting it hang forward, hang down. For years, I would do this, and very quickly my belly would tighten up again. And so I would maybe 2 or 3 times in the course of a sitting relax my belly again and not worry too much about tightening up, but just... And then slowly over some years, my ability to have a relaxed stomach increased. And then perhaps also you can offer caring attention to your inner mental landscape, maybe to what you call your mind. And giving yourself time, be patient, not in a hurry with the mind. Maybe your mind needs to be reassured. It's okay right now. At this moment, dear mind, it's okay. It's okay to relax and to soften. Maybe as if the mind is a little bit like a muscle, you can relax the thinking muscle, softening the mind. If the energy of the mind seems very active and like it's being propelled in some direction, perhaps you can relax that, or let the mind settle back, sit back and rest in itself. And perhaps as you exhale, feel or sense or imagine that there's lots of room for the mind. The mind exists in a vast space, like in a vast, big room with a high ceiling, or it's outdoors with infinite space. When there's a lot of thinking, the mind gets kind of claustrophobic. A relaxed mind has lots of space. And then finally, this idea that the mind can be beautiful. Is there anything inside of you, in your mental landscape, that corresponds to this idea of beauty in the mind? Some people have the similar word, bright or clear mind, luminous mind, wondrous mind, beautiful mind. And even if you don't feel or sense that now, is there anything inside of you that, even in your memory or imagination, that corresponds to this idea that a beautiful mind? An open mind, receptive mind. A mind that's content, safe, peaceful mind. You might not be feeling this very much, but is there anything inside that these words touch? And if there is, with that mind, with that quality or that feeling or memory, to to allow the experience of breathing to be known. To be aware, to allow awareness of breathing to occur with a sense of beauty or care, kindness, peacefulness, a peaceful awareness of inhale and exhale. Perhaps as if the breathing is not the main point of meditation. The experience of breathing is the basis or the focus on which the beautiful mind, the peaceful mind, can also be known, can be allowed to be present. So you're not so much focusing on concentrating on the breathing as you are focusing on how awareness of breathing can be peaceful, loving, have a sense of beauty or clarity, softness. And if your mind wanders away from thoughts, wanders away from the breathing, don't be in a hurry to get back to the breathing as if that's the point. Take your time to see if you can reestablish some even small bridge between the beauty of your mind and the breathing and the clarity of the mind, or the gift of the mind. Breathing one breath at a time, one beautiful mind moment at a time. Occasionally, when we wander off in thought, the mind has actually become a little bit more peaceful or relaxed or not trying so hard. So if you notice yourself having wandered off in thought, don't be in a hurry to come back to the breath or in a hurry to judge yourself for that. Take your time. See if you can notice if the mind has become a little bit calmer or more peaceful or more at ease or less striving or trying or judging. It doesn't always happen this way, but if it does, stay close to that mind. Not the thinking mind, but the quieter the part of it, the more peaceful part of it. And let that be where you begin with the breathing again. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, perhaps if you can, relax your mind further. At this point, it might be fine to let go of any trying, efforting that the mind is making, including even focusing on breathing, and allowing the mind to be open or receptive or at rest to do whatever the mind does, but allowing it to just be at ease the best you can. Some people, it's helpful, the image of the mind like a wide, clear lake, the surface of a still lake, wide, still lake. The mind spreads out, is peaceful, quiet. And whatever simplicity of being, simplicity of mind that you're able to relax into. Nothing to do, nothing to become, nothing to resist, nothing, just to be with the mind. And within this simple mind, perhaps this simple heart, can you touch into a simple caring, the simplest form of compassion or love or care? A simple caring and love that can radiate through your body, through your mind. A caringness for yourself, or caringness for this body and this being that you are. And then that from this being, from yourself, from your heart, your mind, let the mind and heart spread outwards, the simplicity of care. Imagining that it reaches out into the world and begins to include others, people you know, in your neighborhood and family and friends. And it spreads outwards to touch the people of these lands, people in these lands, north and south, and the lands across the oceans, around the globe. And with a simple caringness, simple compassion, a radiance, a glow of goodwill, of friendliness, of caringness, in which you're ready to remind all people that you care for them. You wish them well. You wish them safety, health, happiness. And as if your glow of caringness can touch all beings, let them know that you care. So this talk will be the fourth in the series on beautiful, the role of beauty, Kalyana, in the teachings of the Buddha, and also in our practice and maybe in our lives. The teacher that I practiced with in Burma named U Pandita, he once wrote or said, and was put in the book, body and mind are like a garden in this sense. If neglected, defilement, weeds will grow. If the plot is well tended, it will be beautiful and fruitful. So as we practice meditation, practice Buddhism, it's an action that we engage in. The action of sitting down to be quiet and mindful, attentive. The action of being generous, the action of being kind, the action of cultivating our ability for generosity and kindness and wisdom and equanimity, peacefulness. All kinds, as we cultivate these things, these beautiful flowers, this beautiful fruit grows in the garden of our hearts. If we neglect, if we're not mindful, not aware of what's here, if we're not self-aware, it's all too easy for old habits and conditioning and impulses to just kind of take over. And without awareness, it's all too easy for those to be weeds, to be things that are not really, that we want there and helpful there, things that may be actually obscure, obstruct, even make it impossible for the beautiful flowers to grow. And this teacher U Pandita, the book where this quote is from, was given the title, The State of Mind Called Beautiful. The State of Mind Called Beautiful. And that's the topic for today's talk, is a beautiful mind, or the state of mind that's beautiful. And I don't know what he was thinking, what he was saying in Pali that was translated into English, but he knew Pali and very well and knew the teachings of the Buddha. So it's possible that he was doing a little word play, because the word for mind or state of mind is citta, C-I-T-T-A. And but that same word, it's kind of in Pali, is what's called a homonym, same pronunciation, same spelling, has a second meaning, or has it's a different word, but it's a homonym, and that second word means beautiful. So that in Pali, the expression chittam means beautiful mind. And the fact that somehow these homonyms exist with the same word, mind and beautiful, speaks to the potential of the mind to become beautiful, to become Kalyana. And sometimes a different word is used for the mind, or the mind in meditation, that also means beautiful, which is soba, sobana. And so the Buddha talks about the mind, beautiful mind, beautiful heart. The word heart is also a translation of the word citta. In English, we tend to separate these two out. In ancient Buddhism, it's kind of, ambiguous, or it's rather kind of a choice of the translator whether citta is translated as heart or as mind. And some of you might prefer heart. And there are other words. This word citta can mean other things besides beautiful. It could also mean brilliant and wonderful. All dictionary definitions of the word. And we find that the Buddha has all kinds of related words to describe the mind state, not inherently exactly, but its potential, what it can become when we tend our garden well and allow things to grow. There's words like brightness, luminosity, luminous, bright. One of my favorite descriptions of potential of the mind that comes usually in deep concentration is the mind becomes purified, bright, unblemished, rid of imperfections, malleable, workable, steady, and imperturbable. Wow. So this, this wonderful potential. It's kind of like a celebration of the mind. It kind of, it's like, wow, there's like, sometimes the state of the mind, what the mind can become when the garden has really been developed, is as wondrous as looking into a wonderful natural wonder, to look out across the Pacific Ocean in a clear day in a blue sky, or to look out across the Sierras, the great mountains here in California, or to look into the Grand Canyon and see the immensity of time and depth and beauty. So the mind can be that. That our minds have that capacity. There's a way of discovering the mind, opening to the mind, and seeing this. That it's a wondrous thing, and that we have this potential inside for this something amazingly beautiful, a treasure that can be discovered or cultivated or grown inside. One description the Buddha gives is with an intellect, with a mind that is open and uncovered, one develops a luminous mind. When our mental functioning is open and uncovered, imagine that. You're taking off the covers, taking off the hindrances, taking off the preoccupations, and it's open. We have this idea in English of an open mind as a beautiful mind. So open, then that we develop a luminous mind. Then there are other words that the Buddha used that also speak and kind of maybe are evocative of this potential of the mind. And maybe as you hear some of these words, maybe some point in your memory, in your life, now or in the past, you had some taste of what this could be like, maybe in meditation or something. And so not that you have to have it now, but maybe it's a little bit evocative of some taste, a smell, a sense, a memory of something. The mind's capacity for beauty and this luminosity is also described as the mind becoming clean, a clean mind, cleansed, pure. A mind also that becomes confident, concentrated, elated, and happy. Also the mind becomes expansive, a great mind, and also a peaceful mind. Furthermore, when the Buddha talks about someone becoming awakened, he actually oftentimes doesn't talk about somebody becoming awakened. He talks about it's the citta, it's the mind that is awakened, the mind that's released, the mind that's liberated. So this mind is very important for the Buddha. And this mind talks about the mind in wonderful ways. He never is dismissive of the mind, or never sees the mind as a problem or something to be liberated from, or it's the mind that's liberated. Something like what is translated into English as consciousness, vijnana, the Buddha didn't have a lot of respect for, oddly enough. So probably the English word consciousness is not the right translation, how we relate to the word consciousness. But whatever vijnana is, it can be a burden, it's impermanent, it's not self, it's dukkha, it's suffering and unsatisfactory. And we want to become liberated in a sense from it. Oddly enough, whatever that vijnana is, consciousness. But the Buddha never says that about the mind. The mind is never referred to as impermanent, not self, and suffering. Not that it is permanent or self or something else, the opposite of suffering. But somehow the mind is something which doesn't fit that category. The mind can become brittle and frightened, agitated and unsteady, sluggish and restless, confused and go wandering off. It can even be Buddha talks about a hostile mind as well. So certainly the mind can, be fragile and difficult. But the idea that, but it's not we're getting rid of the mind. The mind is being, maybe I shouldn't say this word, beautified. The mind is being, or we're discovering or growing or developing this beautiful mind. So how is this discovered? How do we define the liberated mind, or how do we find the beautiful mind? I can't stress enough that the Buddha considered the mind to be something that can be cultivated, something that can be shaped, something that can be conditioned, something that can be supported to grow and develop and become strong. And what that requires is action, what I talked about yesterday. And that, and so the action that's beautiful beautiful deeds, the doer of beauty reaps beauty. So how can we engage in the practice of Buddhism, the practice of mindfulness of the breathing, mindfulness of anything, the practice of concentration, the practice of generosity, of goodwill, kindness, patience, all the different practices of Buddhism, the ethical practices, the precepts. What would it mean if those actions were done in a beautiful way? Chances are we would not do it with greed, we would not do it with conceit, selfishly, we would not do it with tight expectations and wanting and striving and pushing. The very quality of how we would do the practice comes into play when we're looking at the quality of mind that's beautiful. And I imagine that each of you will have a different reference point for the idea of beauty. And I encourage you to do that. Find some reference point, some understanding of that inspires you or is meaningful for you. And how can you engage in your life, live in beauty, practice in beauty, keep coming back to a mind that can do things in beautiful ways. Now I know it's hard to do, and I know there's lots of conditions and forces, that frustrate and frighten and cause the mind to be other ways. But don't give up on the possibility of a beautiful mind. It's even worthwhile kind of acting as if the mind is beautiful. Sometimes as if is sincere enough. It's not like we're pretending it's different, but we know the mind is challenged, but as if it kind of begins creating a little different context in the mind and freedom of the mind. And we're exercising the freedom of the mind not to be caught in the weeds of what goes on, to step out of it. And the act of mindfulness itself, stepping away and observing and recognizing. How can we have a sense of beauty or peacefulness or clarity or feeling of cleanliness or some feeling of goodness in just the way we're going to practice? So as we kind of offer in the ways that we act, the ways that we practice, that we bring a sense of beauty into it, that begins to allow the mind state of beauty, the state of mind to grow and develop. And at some point we start recognizing that in fact, in ourselves is one of the greatest treasures that exists, a greater wealth than you will ever have in the bank or under your mattress. A piece of art that's more beautiful than anything at one of the great museums of the world. And that beautiful thing is your own mind. I hope that as you practice, you will discover that you'll see nothing more beautiful in this universe than the beauty of a liberated mind, a clean mind, a pure mind. That your mind, you'll see that you have that. Amazing that should be the case. And then with that beautiful mind of yours, I'm confident that you will naturally, easily, relaxedly have all the compassion and care that you need to have for this world that we live in. May it be that your beauty is a partner with your compassion and love. You're beautiful. Thank you.